On Wednesday, March the 31st, in the year of our Lord, 2021, I'm Hugh Hewitt. We've got so much news this morning, and I might as well start with the biggest story of all. The Archbishop of Canterbury denies presiding over a secret wedding for the Duke and Duchess of Sussex. Meghan Markle had claimed that she and Prince Harry had been married in their back garden 3 days before the ceremony at Windsor Castle, and the Archbishop said no. So that goes to credibility on everything Meghan Markle says. But now that we've got the biggest, I've got our own Archbishop coming up on Good Friday. This Friday is Good Friday, and we're combining a Hillsdale dialogue on church and university, faith and college, with a long conversation with Archbishop Chaput of Philadelphia about his brand new book, Things Worth Dying For. And it's a bestseller. It's a marvelous book. It's a terrific book, and you've got to go out and get it. But our Archbishop didn't preside over any secret weddings, and neither did the Archbishop of Canterbury. Now to the other big news. Joe Biden, the president, is going to Pittsburgh today, which is a bad place to start anything, if you ask me. But he's going to Pittsburgh, and he's pitching. The New York says Biden wants to pay for infrastructure plan. He's pitching a so-called infrastructure plan with 15 years of corporate taxes. CNN writes, with an eye on history, Biden moves on big, bold, and progressive infrastructure package. Good to know that the media will be examining it closely and not cheerleading from the left side of the aisle. The Washington Post, Biden's infrastructure and climate plan emerges as congressional wrangling begins. You think? Wall Street Journal, behind Biden's big plans, belief that government can drive growth. Now, the real headline is, and remember this, Biden proposes biggest tax hike in history. The death tax Democrats are coming for your money. And they will tell you that only 20 million people will be impacted, when in fact 20 million people and all their heirs and assigns, as we say in trust and estates law, will be impacted. If you are over the age of 60, you ought to have smoke coming out of your ears. If you're over the age of 50 and you bought a house and you're paying it off dutifully, if you actually bought a house anywhere in America, you're just screwed. They're going to do away with stepped-up basis. I talked to Hank Adler yesterday, the guy I co-authored the Fair Tax Fantasy with, retired partner at Deloitte. He can't believe they're even thinking about doing away with stepped-up basis. The havoc it will cause, because many of the assets are leveraged. People they borrowed out of their house. So they've got a mortgage of, $500,000 on a house they paid for $200,000 that's now worth $600,000 because they're using it to survive. You take away stepped up basis, they still owe taxes on the $300,000, which they don't have anything to pay. It's all going to go to the bank. It's really a nightmare. It's really a nightmare, but that's not the only thing. They're going to repeal the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which is going to just hurt enormously every taxpayer in America. They're going to raise the highest marginal rate to 39.6. They are going to raise the corporate tax rate to the highest in the world, 28%. 21% right now, competitive with other countries barely. The European average is 19.99%. China is 25%. They're communists. Joe Biden is proposing 28%. I've already told you about the getting away of step-up basis, but they're also going to reduce the estate tax exemption from 11 million to 3.5 million, and they are going to phase out Section 199A, which is how the small businesses got some tax relief from Donald Trump. They are killing investments in savings. It is absolutely a nightmare. And so it's the biggest tax hike in history. And I can't find that in any of the major newspapers. Biggest tax hike in history. It's going to raise trillions and trillions and trillions and trillions of your money for their projects and their friends. Meanwhile, the Democratic coalition is splintering over H.R. 1, the crazy bill. I haven't spent much time on H.R. 1 because it's just a crazy bill. 800 pages, radically reshaping the way elections are run. campaign finance laws that are unconstitutional. It's nutty. The Democrats have lost their mind, but they're going to try and push all this through with weird readings of the rules. They can't change the filibuster because of Joe Manchin and Kristen Sinema. Good on them. And so they're trying to figure out ways to push this through, but some Democrats don't even want to bring this up. It's so crazy. Also from the Wall Street Journal, U.S. home prices rise at the fastest pace in 15 years. I'll talk a little bit about that next segment. In COVID news, and there is a lot of COVID news, the United States has now given 96 million people at least one dose. 53 million people have been fully vaccinated. I am among them. And so I went to the movies yesterday. And for the first time, I've seen 2 movies in 14 months. And I used to see 3 movies. That's what I do when I just want to shut down and recharge. Fetching Mrs. Hewitt will either go with me if it doesn't involve shooting people. And this movie is called Nobody. And it's John Wick meets Better Call Saul. And it was really mindless, wonderful to be back in a movie theater. Mindless movie. But, Sonny Bunch, the movies are back. So on the virus front, because so many people are getting vaccinated, the country is reopening. But there are many stories. Germany's Chancellor Merkel, France's President Macron are in talks to use Russia's Sputnik COVID vaccine. Don't be alarmed. On this show last week, Tony Fauci said it works. I believe him. But the Washington Post says Republicans seek to make vaccine passports the next battle in the pandemic culture wars. This is not a pandemic culture war. A government-issued vaccine passport is a nightmare idea. The private sector will do what needs to be done. But internal passports are a thing of Soviet history. We do not have them. The FBI has a terror watch list with 1 million people on it. And a 3-judge panel of the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit upheld its constitutionality yesterday. Meanwhile, Brazil is rocked by political turmoil as the pandemic outlook darkens. And we have no problems, despite the biggest tax hike in history. So I want you to start using that term in all your tweets, death tax Democrats. Because that's what they are. They're out to destroy the savings you've accumulated to pass on to your children and grandchildren. They're going to raise the most money ever by taxes. It's the biggest tax hike in history by the death tax Democrats. Can you repeat that with me? The biggest tax hike in history by the death tax Democrats. Think we can get Mike Gallagher to do that? Generally, since we're cooperating so well. We have a kind of Brazil politics going on the morning shows between Sweetheart Mike. That's what his nickname is within the company.
We actually call him the other Mike.
The other Mike. Okay, you're going to get in on this too, huh?
Oh yeah, we refer to him as the other Mike.
Yeah, when we were talking to Archbishop Chaput yesterday.
Chaput.
I've said it right all along.
You've never once said it right.
We were setting up the interview, and well, you tell him, Dwayne. What did he do?
So I call him on Skype, and we're talking to him. And as I'm talking to him, I can hear the radio going on in the background. And so I'm hearing the slap back coming back at me. And I asked him what was going on with the radio, and he says, "Oh, nothing. I'm just sitting here listening to Mike." Just deadpan, just total.
Oh, the Archbishop. It's a good thing it's a great book. He is the most Catholic, most influential Catholic cleric in the United States, maybe in the English-speaking world. And his book is marvelous. He's retired Archbishop now, but the person to whom Orthodox Catholics in the English-speaking world look for guidance and inspiration, along with people like George Weigel and Robert George and Ryan Anderson. But that is on Good Friday. We got a lot coming up today, though. Don't go anywhere. A lot of breaking news. Don't